You're tuning into the Journey to Your Best Self podcast, where we explore the past holistic well-being, personal growth, and living a fulfilling life. Each episode, we bring you insightful conversations, practical tools, and inspiring stories to help you integrate your mind, body, and spirit on your journey to becoming your best self. Let's dive in and embark on this journey together. And welcome back to the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian O'Neill, and I'm joined by clinical hypnotherapist, certified life coach, and yoga instructor, my sister, Tara O'Neill. Today, we are diving into an incredibly fascinating topic, energy vortexes or earth chakras. Tara, long time no see. Usually there is a bit of a buffer, which I really enjoy. Now I'm getting the full, speaking of energy, I'm getting the full Tara energy, and it's just me soaking it all in. So glad to be back with a solo, as we call it, a duet podcast. You know, we're on such a roll. I don't know if you want to get into the kind of deviation towards doing a lot of interviews and the role we had on all the ideas and all the topics that we wanted to discuss. And it kind of just snowballed into this, interview of a bunch of great guests that we had. But where have we been?
Yeah, absolutely. So, kind of we're following the cycles of nature, right? So throughout our summer, we had an amazing rise in guests, and we just went back to back to back to back, and we were loving it. We were just going with the flow, and that's that summertime, like exciting energy, like bam, 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 bam. So now we're moving into fall. We have a bunch of episodes to roll out to you that you are absolutely going to love, that are going to keep you through the cooler months as you do go inward, literally or metaphorically. So we're really excited to share some of what we have recorded and what we've been up to. And we really want to take the time to thank our listeners for the feedback, the support, for listening, for being there. We're listening, we hear you, and we're bringing you some really, really good stuff.
Call it right.
New age. It's the new age, right? And a really exciting, just a really, really exciting, really fresh new is how I feel about what's coming in this next season.
Trying to, like you said, with the feedback, you can't hit every single topic all the time and every single interest that people have. But one of the nice things about the website rollout and redesign is the inquiry forms that we have does give us some feedback about what people are looking for. And we've tried to take that into consideration with scheduling different people that are experts in that topic. So we definitely are reacting and listening and supporting and are responsive to suggestions and requests and things like that.
Yes.
So keep them coming for sure.
Exactly. Continue to let us know, what you like about the pod, what you like about the website, what you like about the courses, where you might want to see improvement or more, where you might struggle. If you need more accountability, if you need more support, if you need more, or if you'd like more content, share. Please share, ask questions, give feedback, share with loved ones, friends. We really, really appreciate it. We're here for you, and we wouldn't be possible without you guys. So thank you. Much love, always sending. So, Brian, let's introduce our topic, or if you have any other housekeeping you'd like to share.
No, I think that's it for now. We can close with a couple of things that I had on my mind, but definitely really wanted to get into this because, as regular dedicated listeners will have noticed, one of the journeys that I've been on is discovering and asking about and inquiring and researching about different locations that keep popping up in our conversations and in our experiences and our research that have just the frequency that they come up and be the effect or the way they stand out because of the way someone's spoken about them or a video you've seen with them or something that's taken place there or something that you've read about that had that place as the setting. So I've been trying to figure out why it is that these places keep popping up. And, hopefully as we're learning, we'll be able to kind of educate and inform. Travel is definitely something that we have really started to suggest, and it's been a common theme amongst a lot of the guests, and something that we've found a lot of them have done and will continue to do. But it's a big place, the world, 25,000 miles circumference, and a lot of people. But there are these places that keep coming. There's a couple dozen places that keep coming back up, and just trying to figure out why that is and how we can learn about them, and then maybe utilize them to make ourselves a better self, hopefully. So right off the bat, what's your comment or thoughts about that?
Yeah, so a couple things, come to mind. One is nature. We're always preaching the power of nature, and a commonality of the earth centers. We'll talk a little bit about, we'll introduce how many call them the earth chakra centers, or vortexes, these hot spots throughout the globe. But if you notice, nature has this effect, and the way I like to think of it is as it's the purity of it. And what I'm noticing is that in and of itself is such a huge component, the pure being in the elements of nature. And then also some of it is a bit of preference, what you enjoy and what you need and what you like, right? The bigger picture is everything is energy. We know that, but the more we say it doesn't help us understand ourselves anymore. Energy is information, energy is data, energy is awareness, energy is consciousness. Like, we got to go deeper. Yes, science tells us everything is energy. How is that going to help us evolve? So I want to know now. I want to break down all these vibrancies, frequencies, these words that can be meaningless if we don't do anything further.
Is that movement,
That's the
movement
universal
healing?
signal for
Okay.
your shit ain't on.
Everything's energy, and you want to keep. Oh, wait, hold on. But I was just reading as I was prepping an article. The author was justifying this whole extensive blog that they had written by prefacing with everything is energy. So yeah, but that's not right. That's not like a cure all. Sometimes people do make these statements and then they don't expound on them or go deep enough, right? So for sure, like what's next? I love that you're ready to go there. Let's see. A lot of times we talk about people's energy too, and then this is kind of my curiosity as in science. A lot of times when we talk about energy, we're talking about the energy of inanimate objects, right? And nature and, non-organic matter. Well, right?
Right.
Equals MC square. Usually that wasn't like a person. We're talking about matter on a much larger scale. So the earth is a much larger scale than a person, right? So when we talk about the electromagnetism and the thermal energy and the energy of lightning and things like that, it's pretty fascinating. And I think people are a little bit hesitant to go there because they feel like maybe that's, a realm of the hard sciences that they're not qualified to trek into. We're qualified, so let's go. No, I mean, I'm not to
Yeah.
presume that we are, but we're curious, just like the next person, the next listener and viewer. So let's delve in, and then people can. It's almost where we're starting, right? We're starting them out, and then they can do their own research. I'm gonna have a couple of blog posts that go along with this too, and we'll delve into it further. Some bunch of citations
Yeah.
on the website. So, what are energy vortexes? To just have a baseline. Do
Sure. So
you want to just define that?
maybe, yeah, maybe even just real quickly going back to the everything is energy. And I thought that was such a really good point that you were saying, the science of it. We think of energy as science. And so let me just explain, like an energy field that as humans we call them auras. Now we can agree that there's an energy field. Aura sounds a little bit more woo woo because it does have that spiritual side to it, and we'll go into that in a moment. But what I want to say is comparing a plant's aura to a human's aura or energy field is going to be a lot different, right? Because obviously the consciousness of the human is probably a lot more complex, so a lot more energy. And so that's why I do sometimes wish that there was another word for energy. I love the fact that it puts everything into perspective when we say everything is energy, because then that helps us to understand the unification of oneness and the quantum mechanics of our existence, that there is no separation, though it's a lot more complex, and it's an oversimplification to just say everything is energy and sort of like, well, we don't have to worry about being a human because there's no right or wrong, good or bad, or anything like that. We know that each physical body has an energy field. We're going to talk a little bit about what that means in terms of chakras. Chakras are energy systems, and they were first introduced in the Vedas, which are Hindu scriptures, some of the very first ever spiritual or religious scriptures. And so they're grossly misunderstood and oversimplified in the West. They're very, very complex. If you go back and you read those scriptures and that literature and study that. So like you said, we encourage people to do their own research and their own homework. What we want to do is we just want to explore the some of the science of it, but also the anecdotal experiences that we personally have experienced, as well as our guests and our clients and those around us. Where, because at the end of the day, saying everything is energy is fine. We want people to have transformative, empowering experiences. That's why we're talking about the vortexes, right? Our environment is going to impact our energy field, right? So we have these energy fields and we're constantly interacting with everything else that's energy. So we know that the desk is energy, we know that the cat is energy, we know everything is energy. So, but depending on the vibration or the resonance or the frequency of that object is going to be how your own frequency or how your own energetic field reacts. So if you are, in a room with inanimate objects, you probably aren't going to have as much contrast of energy because there's not as much to play with. But when you come in contact with a lot of other things that are either resonant in support or resonant not in support, there's going to be a lot of things happening, right? So you used the example before of people getting together in a stadium, right? Like, it's like the energy that you feel is just magnified, right? And that's such a great example. Where's that energy coming from? The same people that entered that and were silent during the moment of silence, they're the same people that a half hour later, when that person is scoring a touchdown, they're like, shh, where's that energy coming from? Well, it's coming from inside of us, but also we're affected by the person next to us, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about how, yeah, of course, we know everything is within us, but also that there's the external factor. So how can we use these vortexes to travel to learn from? And so when we talk about the vortexes in terms of geography or Mother Earth, and we think of Mother Earth as also, a conscious being, and she has her own energy centers, her own chakras. We have the 7 that we often will talk about as the Hindu version of the chakras, the rainbow starting at the root or the base of the spine and working all the way up to the crown of the head. And the earth also allegedly has these energy centers, which you can look into the Schumann resonance of it. You can look into these ley lines, and scientists can analyze that. And so if you're science-based and you want to do that research, definitely. So throughout the centers of the earth, people tend to commune at these places, and we'll go through them, some of the major ones, especially those 7 main ones. And they hold retreats. They do traditions there. They hold ceremonies, prayer, meditation. They channel and they utilize this energy to evolve, to transmute, to transform, to grow. And so we'll talk a little bit about what makes them special, why they might be special, but then also, is how much of the people that are attracted to that contributes to it, and also your internal state and how we're going to, do a dance with the universe, so to speak, and the earth and the solar system and the universe is constantly being a mirror reflected back to us.
Wow. And all that in under 45 minutes. Okay. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I guess to prime us, it's definitely a little bit something for everyone, because there is the scientific, really, like, a lot of the research now, as science advances, is really validating a lot of claims that people have just intuitively known about for years, generations and generations. And it's funny because those people, it's almost like an apology tour, right? They were dismissed, like these shaman and these, old time people that felt the land and knew the land, like in a kind of a Native American way, right, just like had that connection. And the Western world frowned upon that kind of explanation, for things, and description of different places. Can you talk about a place that we can start with maybe something semi-local, like Sedona, Arizona, and your kind of personal experience there. I do like that as a starting point, because I'm also kind of fascinated by how a lot of these places that are coming up as having these magnetic anomalies and these peaking energy fields are also like really culturally and historically rich with a lot of things that have been going on there, the rituals and the generational life and death that's happened there. Like it's, to me, it's not a coincidence that a lot of that is happening in the same place. Before, the Spanish and Mexicans, the Native American populations were there for a long time. And I think that is definitely part of Sedona's secret sauce. So can you just talk about the feeling first arriving there, and did you do any investigating, or did you kind of just soak it all in and then look back on it with fondness?
Yeah. Yeah. So actually, I man, with Sedona, I want to say that I had this enlightening, amazing experience, and I can't wait to go back. Though it was beautiful, it was gorgeous, but it was very, very intense, energetically. People out there that are energetically sensitive, you know who you are, right? So so just the same way that those people can walk into a room and feel what's going on, the same way almost too much of a good thing can be overwhelming. So when I went to Sedona, I went to see Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton and a couple other wonderful speakers. It's such a great place to do this kind of work. It attracts people that are very curious about consciousness and meditation, expansion. It attracts. It's a spiritual center for sure. For those that don't know about Sedona, a lot of the new age started there, and it's a really cute, quaint little. I wouldn't even call it a city. It's a town. Um, and though they say that there is it's a energy vortex, possibly because of an immense amount of quartz that is beneath the ground. But definitely a very, very intense energy. So if you're not grounded, it can be overwhelming. It's like and it's also hot. When I went there, it was probably like 110, 115 every day. But there's a lot of different things that are happening. Higher elevation, different elevation. Like it was harder to breathe, for sure. So it was absolutely a wonderful experience, though. Everyone's going to be a little bit different, and I have heard various things. A lot of people will go there to channel. For our listeners, channeling is often connecting with energies in higher. Well, I don't want to say higher realms, but other realms. And we say higher because the higher you go, usually that means the lighter the vibration. So, more of a Christ consciousness type of an energy, an ethereal energy, angels, saints, ascended masters, they're going to have a very, very light vibration. Here in the 3D world, it's going to be a lot denser. Dense doesn't mean bad. It just means it's a different frequency. It's a different energy. So, it was wonderful people, interesting little counterculture. Do your homework definitely before you go. Wonderful, wonderful place. I think it brings a lot of people that are like-minded, which just adds to that energy, right? You meet somebody that you really enjoy, and that's a vibe in and of itself. And you have all of these seekers, and it's like, wow, how these cool. Like, I thought I was weird, and this person's like just as far out there. So it does attract a lot of that, and a lot of things that I can't say enough good things about the people that I've met there. And that's Sedona. So that's the energy vortex that almost everyone that's ever been there can agree that they've felt to some extent. Can make you, like I said, go to those realms faster. So if you're learning to meditate, it's a great place. But I also think going to a temple, you would find that energy. So it's not like we have to go to these vortexes in order to have a practice by any means, but it can be a good boost to get you into that next step. What I love is being up now in the Northeast. I love the Native American land. You mentioned Native Americans, right? They were so connected to the earth. They were so good at talk about gratitude. I mean, appreciation and respect and just pure love for the earth and Mother Nature. They knew how to work with it. They understood the elements. Everything they did, most of the things, to my understanding, was ceremonial. And so I think that we have to think about the rituals and the ceremonies that are available to it. So also, when you have nature in this, and you're treating nature, and you're to almost let it be itself, it's going to flourish. So also, I think with further away, like people that travel to other places, there's going to be a novelty of it, and that energy could be also meeting people from all over the world. You're going to have different sparks of excitement and joy, and those dopamine rushes. So I think there's a lot of different elements at play, and like, let's maximize them, right? Like, let's go on that walkabout, appreciate the nature, appreciate the people that are there, and just use it for growth. Yes, sometimes the science is cool, but for me, it's like, I'm more concerned about, like, how can I make this the best experience, and how can I help everyone else have the best experience? So that being said, do we need to go to these places in order to grow our practice? I don't know, Brian, you tell me.
Well, there is one that, without revealing too much behind the scenes, that we do know of that hopefully we can get to and set something up in the not too distant future. It does have a Native American, connection energy there as well. It is nice to have to accelerate things and have that boost, right, and burst. And like you said, it's not required, but it can really, I think, accelerate things or get you from a place of maybe of stagnation or gradual increase, and give you a little bit of a natural assist and open your eyes and self up to something. I think, just with traveling in general, that can be a benefit, as well. The different types of people. I think that, one of the secrets too is that, as we'll talk about, a lot of like-minded people will also be, on their personal pilgrimage or vacation or travels, and then they will have their own energy as well, and it just amplifies everything. So there's just there's great stuff here, and it makes you kind of excited thinking about it. One of the things I'll talk about, the kind of the generational energy and the energy of the people that have lived there. If I just want to kind of bounce around to different places, and then it's going to trigger different questions and comments and ideas that I have. If we just go down south along the, there's definitely something about, it's not a coincidence that so many of these places are along the natural fault lines, right? And, if we go south along the Rockies, which they are connected as you go through Central America to South America to the Andes, right? It's really kind of just one long continuous mountain range. If we go down to South America to Peru and the lake there, and also Machu Picchu. That's probably one of the most famous energy chakra vortexes, because even people that aren't looking and aren't searching for those locations and just maybe have a bucket list desire to go there or a historical interest that they have, always, at least in my experience, talk about some kind of feeling that they've had going there. So do you want to talk about some of the ley lines that are there, and just some of what you've heard of and know about the significance about the energy found there?
Yeah, let's go let's just I'm going to run through the 7 chakras of the earth, and take what you want with the knowledge, and leave the rest, right? So we're just playing here with the merging of some of these spiritual traditions, and how it overlaps with our energy centers and the earth energies. So if we go to the root chakra, it'll take us to Mount Shasta, California. This is said to be the interface between the mind, body, and the spirit, and it's recognized as a very electrically charged place. The sacral chakra is Lake Titicaca, and shared by Bolivia and Peru. It is said to be there's 2 major ley line intersections, and the male and the female the male and the female great dragon lines, known as the feathered serpent or the male, and the rainbow serpent, the female. The solar plexus is going to be in Australia. This area is sacred to the Aborigines, and there is a great tale or history that I encourage everybody to look into. That's the solar plexus, and for those of you who follow along, Manipura in our physical body, that is our upper stomach, and that is the forgive me for my pronunciation, Uluru Kate Hutha, known as the Iron Rocks, and that's the in Northern Territory of Australia. Then we go to the heart chakra, which is going to be Stonehenge. This is going to bridge the spiritual and the physical, the mind and the feelings, the upper and the lower. So they say the first 3 chakras are going to be our spiritual centers. The bottom 3 are going to be from our physical manifestation as humans, and then it meets in the heart, and that's where the heart is in Glastonbury, UK. The throat chakra, the Great Pyramids in Egypt. That's going to be the throat is often said for communications or portals into other dimensions. The third eye chakra, in Western Europe. So that the third eye is the seat of intuition, and so they're going to also be an extra dimensional type of a feeling of energy there. And then we have the crown chakra, which is Tibet, and that is going to be, the direct antenna to the divine. And then there's a lot of other high energy points, and that's just like I said, this isn't there's a lot of other energy places. There's Tulum, there's Maui, there's Kiev, there's Cape Town, South Africa, Bali, Mount Fiji. So a lot of these places are going to have these extra added elements of an energetic experience for people that go there on some sort of a pilgrimage or for some sort of a spiritual experience.
Excellent. That's awesome, and that so leads us back to Machu Picchu. And one of the things that I was thinking about while we've heard so much about it and we're talking about the energies, is there's something about having, when you go somewhere and you can feel like the oldness or the how it's a new city or how it's been established for it has a history to it, right? A history of its own. And it's almost hard to imagine centuries ago, as far as the timeline that we keep, you kind of track history and so our brains can understand time. The civilizations back then, like pre-technology, Enlightenment, with the Inca civilizations there, and how the civilization was for its time kind of like a preeminent place in that kind of empire in that part of the world, and that how the earth kind of has the memory of that so many generations, and the births, the deaths, the sacrifice, the blood in the soil is not forgotten, whether it is literally sacrifice or it is war or it is a mother's blood, and the birth of children, and life and death and tears and so much, right? And then how humanity actually returns to the earth with a burial and cemeteries and things like that. That is something that you don't really even need to be very initiated and connected to understand. So now you can imagine, if you have a curiosity, or if you are like accepting this energy, or you know how to embrace it and connect with it, it's like tremendous. Like you said, it could be, if you are opened, it's pretty incredible. So if you combine that with, the energy of the earth, there's a lot of energy going on. It's amazing.
Right. Yeah. Let's try to break it down into somewhat of a simple experience, almost like you don't need the external factors, but they sure help. And then I'll go to the energy of a place, and then my second least favorite expression in the spiritual community of, and this is not a dig on them, that's a dig on me, of there not being any time or space. Kind of like, well, everything's energy. Like, well, there's no time or space. Still not helping me become enlightened. Let's go back to Wim Hof came to mind. So if you were trying to warm up, you'd probably go in, like going in the sun would probably be helpful because it would help warm you externally. If you're Wim Hof, you could go outside in the snow and warm up. You don't need the sun. You can go out and you can internally find your inner thermostat and raise your energy. So I want to just use that as like, yes, it helps to get excited when you're in a stadium of 30,000 people, but you could also be at home thinking about your team winning and getting really excited, right? So that's that. Thinking of it that way helps me to understand the idea of there's no time or space, because we can use and the hypnotherapist in me as well, like all day long, I'm bringing other times and other places and other experiences right into themselves, right? We're just bringing up a memory. If I tell them to think of their childhood home is not inside of their brain. They're not actually physically going back there. They're bringing it into their experience. So sometimes when we think of things in this way, it helps us to understand that there isn't time or space in essence. It's all within us. Though it sure helps if we're in the sun trying to warm up, as opposed to in the ocean in the middle in 0-degree water. Okay, so that being said, yes, the energy of places can give us so much. Think of, if you went to a cemetery, it's going to have a different feel. Most people are going to be able to experience that, right? Again, if you go to a a nursery where there's a bunch of babies, right? Most people are going to feel that external energy. So there are some people that will say, well, that's all that doesn't, that's just not, that doesn't even make sense. Could be that they're just not tapped into their body, right? Because we live from the neck up in the West. So we're not generally embodied. But when you're in your body, you can much more easily feel the surroundings. And when you're in nature, you're more in your body because your parasympathetic is turned on. You're not in the throes of the office, or if you're a teacher, in the chaos of a classroom. You're a little bit more focused. You're a little bit more in sympathetic. So there's a reason why people feel so much more energetically connected to the earth? Well, one is it's changing your nervous system, right? So when your nervous system is in that rest and digest, that more parasympathetic, you're going to be able to like, okay, now you're going to be able to start to feel the energetic entrainment, if you will. You'll be able to feel that connection much more easily, as opposed to being sardined in a subway. All right. So when you go to these places, can you feel the history of it? Yeah, absolutely. Right. I mean, we're stardust. So we can tap, and that brings us to also people that are highly intuitive. They could pick up, like, someone's grandmother's ring, and they could feel the energy connected to that, right? And so that's they're tapping into the history of that, and science is now starting to understand that part of it, right? So I think, yes, let's go to, going to a battlefield, the energies that might be there from many, many, many years ago. It doesn't make any sense. Nothing is actually there, but you can tap into that energy field. So it depends on how tuned in you are, depends on what your intent is, what your focus is, who you're with. But I think these are just great opportunities to get you out of your typical energy patterns.
If you don't have the wherewithal or means to just hop out on a couple of flights to go to one of these locations, you can, if you prioritize it, you can make it happen, right? If you want to, you'll get there.
Oh,
Your journey, your road will take you there. But in the interim, there are definitely a lot of places that can give you that boost and that jolt, and kind of stir things up for you to expand. Like you said, just going to like a Gettysburg or somewhere where you can at least get a feel for how this can be so true, because you can definitely get that feeling when you're on a tour of a battlefield or somewhere that has such a rich, good, bad, or indifferent, a rich history and a powerful energy. So that's a great starting place for
yeah,
absolute for
yeah.
sure.
And I think traveling and going to these places, like, there is something to be said about it. It's like, enlightenment doesn't always have to be having this crazy intense positive experience in Sedona. Like, I think that it's about life, and going to these historic places, you're connecting with your ancestors, you're connecting with lineages, you're connecting with something greater than yourself. You're getting out of your head, you're getting out of the 9 to 5. You're starting to take steps back and seeing that, like, oh wow, I'm starting to see the interconnectedness of this. And that's one, that I think you do a great job of that, as as a historian, as a teacher, as a father. And I don't know how, and this is more compliments than I've ever given my brother before, but I don't know how you see the
No, keep going.
interconnectedness
This is
of
great
all
stuff. This is good stuff.
how you see the interconnectedness of all that is. And that's that is not easy from someone that is a bit logical and linear. So I think that traveling opens you up. Like, there's an expression of, like, people that are cultured, and they say that it's because when you go to these places, say you traipse around the globe, your gut biome becomes more cultured, right? Because you're picking up different species in your gut biome of trillions of these biota. And I think the same is when we meet these people, when we experience the different energies that have happened over the course of millennia that we don't understand, or longer. We don't understand it. It kind of goes back to our whole mind, body, spirit. Like, we don't need to understand all of it. Like, our logical mind will never understand infinity. Probably, I don't think that it will. And so let's just assume it doesn't, and enjoy life, but yet, like, have these cool experiences of interconnectedness and the magic that is the whoa, the ah, the oh my gosh. It's almost like really cool to not understand something, right? It's like to be in that space of like not needing to know, like knowing enough that it's connected and how cool it is, but like that mystery, right? We want to know everything, but what if like the mystery is like is not like the mystery is the magic, right? We can't and don't want to quantify the magic and the mystical, right? Let's just enjoy it. Let's play with it. And that's where the divine feminine comes in. And that's where we're trying to, we're switching into this other dimension. They talk a lot about 3D and 5D and, call it whatever you want to call it. Just have your own experience and enjoy it and open yourself up to it. Just be open to it and be receptive to it. If science does say anything, we're probably only going to be around for about 100 years in this human existence. So go and play. And like you said, yeah, you don't have to spend 20 grand going on this crazy, super retreat. Find a way, get on a bus, go up, a couple hours, or save your pennies, do what you need to do, set an intention, talk to spirit, like make it happen. And so this little rant is really more that these energies will change your life. The travel, the being open to it, the meeting these people, these vortexes, like exploring it, going there, like that's what. So if I had to say anything, it would be action, do. And that's what these energies do. They move, they help compound your growth. We can try to talk about exactly how, but really a lot of it is take that
We
first step.
can get to that in a sec, but while you were talking about the kind of the magic of the mystery, I was thinking of two that are very well known and prominent and in some ways relatable: the pyramids, right, in Egypt, and Stonehenge, and how the creators, the builders, the architects, and the visionaries behind them, how they were connected to celestial bodies, and still not exactly knowing what the goal was, but knowing that there was an intention to make sense of the universe and connect with it seasonally and spatially. It's fascinating because we're still doing the same thing now. So there's a connection that you get with that history and those people that we're kind of going through. You can imagine them having the same feeling, and it's profound, and it makes it that much more significant. So it's like you said, exploring and enjoying and soaking in that energy and giving your energy as well is pretty amazing. One of the things that we had talked about early on, and you said that we like to think about how, or at least one of the things that we have really been exploring is how to sometimes use some of these tools, not just get back to balance and baseline and alignment and status quo, but to continue and try to maximize what we can do, right? And take that boost, not just to get back to the baseline, but as one of our guests put it, why not reach a little bit farther, right? Like, why not go to, I can think about, kind of some arguments about the universe or discussions and about, contracting, expanding universe, finite, and then, just like this wizened old man who kind of like reaches to the end of it, and it's like, oh, well, that's been decided now. But then he has his cane and he reaches it out and is like, but what about that point of the universe? He went like even farther. Minds are blown. So why not like reach even farther if you can? Take a chance, and why not? So that's where the science backs it up in a way, which it doesn't limit us. It can support the possibility. When we talk about, what we were actually like really getting primed on Schumann Resonance. It does make me happy, but I just keep thinking about how Seinfeld is like always can be an analogy. And Jerry was like, oh, you've never heard of the composer Schumann? And not this Schumann, of course. And George pretends like he knew exactly what he was talking about, but he's like, well, I've always known him as Schumann. So whenever whenever I like just think how to pronounce this in my head and say it, I always just think of someone saying, oh, I thought I didn't know what you're talking about. I've always known it as the Schumann Resonance. So it's just so funny how Seinfeld could always connect to everything. It is fascinating because we know that there is so much going on with like our atmosphere, right? And how basically the Earth, without getting too deep into the weeds and turning into a science class, right? We have like the ionosphere, part of the atmosphere, right? And we have the surface of the Earth. And there's just constant, regular and not random, but just so frequent that it's like consistent electromagnetic activity on the planet. And it's fascinating because we talk about how the senses can only handle and experience so much. But there's so much going on that at one time we thought was invisible or improvable, not provable. But there's so much activity going on that we know over the last decades that's happening, and we have ways to measure and prove it. And basically what the Schumann resonance is, it's the frequency, the hertz, right? The average of that electromagnetic activity that's occurring. So I've seen 7.83 hertz, right? So that's great. What the hell does that mean? All right, 7 hertz is happening. What's so significant about it? The harmonic, for those who know music and singing, right? Harmony, same frequency, but doubled or related mathematically by 2 or by 3, right? So these frequencies, and even when they fluctuate, mirror the human brainwave frequencies, right? So the amazing thing is that the Schumann resonance is, and I know you're like just kind of giddy about this, it connects to brain frequencies when you're like in the alpha state, right? When you're in a kind of relaxed meditative state, that is and can be, connecting to kind of this earth constant frequency that's happening, and some consider it like the heartbeat of the earth. It's amazing, and I mean, this sounds strong, but cannot be coincidental, right? I mean, it seems like that is definitely more than a coincidence that those two frequencies, right, align so well. So before like I could continue on, first thoughts and impressions about the harmonics that connect Earth's electromagnetic cavity, right? That space that there's all these lightning and everything going on in all parts of the Earth, and it's just always there. And then our brain waves, like the theta state, being aligned with that, and kind of maybe that's why a deep meditation and relaxation happens at that frequency. So thoughts, I know there's a lot there.
I think it's important to go back and just re-emphasize the fact that on our podcast, or even just introduce and emphasize the fact that I would say most of our guests have been formally trained in scientifically, more logically, right? They have medical degrees, they have PhDs, they're engineers, they went to some of the best universities on the planet, and that's wonderful, though something was still missing, right? And this is not by any means, and they're very, very respectful to science. This is by no means a dig into science. We're all exploring and learning and growing in the science field as well. Though I wonder, and so I do challenge people that say that it ends there to try these things, go to these places, do these meditations, figure out for yourself. You could still fully believe and follow science and study science and practice science. Though how fun and how expansive it is when you introduce this. That's maybe not as hard of a science quite yet, even though you can argue that it can be found and supported. I would just like to say that part of it. It is interesting. I don't know if you agree or not, that it seems like the majority of our guests definitely tried all the scientific explanations before they kind of went to some of the mystical. So it also made me think of the movie Stargate when you were talking about the pyramids. Did you ever see that?
Of course, yeah, I did. It's been a while,
Oh,
but yeah, I have.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I had a yogi once tell me, imagine that every science fiction movie that you've ever seen was real or potentially could be real. And I was like, huh. I always think of that now when I think of like the pyramids. Like, who knows? Maybe we had some help. We had some celestial help to build these pyramids. Um, though there is something really cool about them, and the portals. That could be a whole episode too. Is these portals that you can drop into, where you can do this quantum jumping and interdimensional travel, but going more to a little bit more grounded. I don't know how you would call it grounded, but yes, the frequency of your brainwaves can match the Earth's frequencies. I remember when I once heard a woman who connected with Mother
Yes.
Earth, and
Yeah. Anything, I would say um, anything following interdimensional travel is going to be more grounded by nature. Yes. So yes, you could have said anything right there and it would have been relatively more grounded. So
yes,
continue.
so we can feel Mother Nature and we can communicate with her. And if we understand the masculine and the feminine and the archetypes and the
Yeah, but
sun and the moon.
no, it's crazy that if you are like, if you get into that theta state, you are really close to that Schumann resonance, and that could lead an expansion of the spirit, the spiritual and energetic, and the harmonics and everything is working together. Like you were talking about there's boosts here, there, and everywhere, but then if you get them all joined, it's blissful. We try to talk about the lack of talking about joy and happiness and creativity and things like that. But this is a way to get there on a level that is transcendent in a lot of ways, and that's possible. I think that the message too is that there's a lot of hope and possibility, right? Like I think that you don't have to necessarily be you might know how to get there more directly, but like a shaman, a guru, priest, somebody that is, experienced for decades and has been trying to, you can get a piece of it, a taste of it. You can get some of the reverb, right? Just out of curiosity, that like taking the chance, right? That if you don't, then you won't get there. But there's
Right.
possibilities are kind of endless.
Yeah. And I'm going to get on the soapbox for a moment and say, if you do the inner work, you can go there and you can stay there. And that's the magic. Anyone can go to the beach and live on the beach and not be near people and live a life of bliss. But go back, or back to that Wim Hof example, he can change his inner state. Doesn't matter if he's spending an hour in ice water. If you learn and cultivate and practice and go to these brainwave states like alpha and theta and even gamma, deep beta, we can stay there much longer. That's the thing. Anyone can get there. Anyone can get there. It's the practice of it. And so how can we get there and then come back to life, but then go back and then integrate and then keep reaching and keep growing, and yes, sometimes you come back. I think that it's absolutely possible for everyone, and these are tools, but ultimately what we always preach is the consistency. It's the assessing where you are, it's the consistency, and it's taking action. And if you do those things, you will ascend ultimately, whatever that even means to you. Yes, absolutely. Anyone can do it. And energetically, I think in the beginning, it is easier if you can remove yourself from the old environment that was making you suffer, that was keeping you struggling, that was causing, or that was if you were in an addiction or an unhealthy relationship or a really tough place in your life, even if it's just temporarily. If you can get away and get into nature, if you can get away and get into nature with good people, if you can get into some sort of a higher vibrational state, just to see what it feels like to naturally be in a good state of mind, then it's going to be, oh, I want more of that. And that's the expansion of the universe, and that's the divine. It's like once you have a taste of that, oh my God, that's my true essence. I want more of that. And to me, that's natural to want more of your own true nature, of your own essence. And that's where we bring heaven to earth.
Wow,
So
that's a great way to end things. You said it all. It's a great way if you are feeling stuck, overwhelmed, disconnected for sure to recharge and realign and give yourself a boost. But ultimately, the inner work is going to sustain you and keep you there. I think that it's definitely been worth exposing people to these places, and there's just so much possibility. There's so much possibility. You can forget that when you're maybe just connected with the online world, or where you live, or just stuck in going from where you're abode to your job and back and forth and back and forth and getting in the car and out, and that's it. You're not really experiencing so much of what the world has to offer. It's a good reminder. So I
yeah,
think this has been very
absolutely.
helpful, even for me, just thinking about a lot of these different places that I haven't thought
Yeah.
about in a while. We wanted to definitely hype up the fact that the site is revamped. Speaking of revamped, recharged, and revitalized and realigned, we're always trying to keep things as helpful to our audience as possible, and reflecting, our message as precise as possible, and giving everyone the resources that they want and need. And it's things are kind of always developing, but we've made like a really big, you know, jump and improvement, and a leveling up of things. So definitely year1self.com. There's a lot there to
Step into
help.
our vortex.
Absolutely. Our vortex, the energy levels, the hertz are through the roof. The readings are incredible.
Schumann Resonance of your1self.com is at the next level.
Absolutely. So good. Be mindful of your energy, and the energy, like Tara said, wherever you are. And that's definitely a first step. And you're going to feel connected, and it's going to reverberate back into you. Any last words?
Yeah, no, we're rooting for you. We love you. We're doing this for you. We aim to serve. We've been there. Sometimes we're still there. But everyone has access to this energy. Everyone has access to evolving, to expanding, to growing, to greater heart openings. It's just an honor. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Your1self.com, Journey to Your Best Self, all major podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, Overcast, Amazon, wherever you get your podcasts. Rate and review, and check us out on Instagram, Your1Self, YouTube. Clips are firing as well. So I guess I'll end it with peace, love, and self-discovery.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Journey to Your Best Self podcast. We appreciate you being part of this community. For more resources, insights, and ways to connect, head over to your1self.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow us on YouTube, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and Overcast. Your support means the world to us. Until next time, keep aligning your mind, body, and spirit, and peace, love, and self-discovery.